Great. So in thinking about the right topic for this group, I thought we have 24 different startups in virtual reality. We've spent a lot of time fundraising in the space, and so it might make sense to share some of the lessons that we've learned from fundraising in virtual reality, some of the things that we've taken away from the work that we've done over the last couple of years in raising money. And I'll start by saying, why the heck do I get to talk about that? We've been doing this for a couple of years, 2.5 years in VR. We've raised about $16 million. We're a virtual reality communications company. That's the way we think about ourselves. So we think that virtual reality is really a new medium that allows us to feel like we're in the same place together. And why that's important is that we have this amazing emotional connection that we get from feeling like we're in the same room with people that are all over the world. It's very, very different than being on a phone call or being on a video chat. And so we're taking advantage of that to find other new interesting things, experiences people can share together in VR. We've been doing this since the beginning of 2013. We've raised about $16 million in the last couple of years. And assembled a pretty good group of investors. And before this, I founded a solar technology company. We raised for that company about $120 million. So I think suffice it to say, I've spent the better part of the last 10 years of my life doing essentially nothing but raising money. So I have maybe learned a thing or two over the last 10 years, and hopefully I can share those. It also occurred to me in thinking about this presentation that in those 10 years of fundraising, I've actually never done a demo day pitch. And so I thought it might be amusing, at least for me, to do this in the style of a demo day pitch and talk about what I've learned. So without further ado, usually these slides start with the problem, the pain point that you're solving in the industry. And I think the interesting thing about what's going on in VR right now is that the problem is not that VR is going to be a big industry. The problem is not that I'm super excited about VR and so therefore I want to work in the industry, so I should go start a company. You are building a company that attacks a particular problem in a particular industry and happens to use VR as the tool to solve that problem. And so you need to remember, as you start to position your company, what problem are you solving? What industry are you actually in? I think, if anything, saying that you are a VR company is actually a little bit of a misnomer. You are an education company, you are a communications company, you are a games company, you are a media company that happens to use VR to enable these new things to happen that weren't possible before in the industry. So leading with the fact that I remember where I was when I heard the name Palmer Luckey for the first time is not generally the best way to start your pitch. You should start with what's the pain that you're solving in a real industry that exists outside of VR today. And then of course, the solution is your product. Right, and so that's where we go right from pain is to talk about your product. And the challenge with talking about your product in VR is that there's no good way to talk about it without actually showing it to people. There is none. Any video is not going to do it justice. You actually have to get people in the product. And the challenge here is that the bar has been set by your peers who have raised money around you ridiculously high for the demo. Your demo needs to blow people away, full stop. And the challenge for you as entrepreneurs in getting that demo ready to show to people is that you're going to show it to your friends and your family and your colleagues, and they're not going to tell you the truth. They're going to tell you your demo is awesome. They're going to smile and say, oh my God, honey, thank you so much for working on this and showing to me. And then they're going to go away. What you need to do is find people who are going to be brutally honest with you. And if those people are not taking off the headset and with this stunned look on their face, then you got to go back to the drawing board a little bit. Because your peers who are going out there and telling the story of their company are killing it. And so you need to do the same with your demo. Your demo is your pitch. That is the thing that's going to sell your company, is your demo. That's the state of the VR industry right now. So what the heck is the presentation for, is a good question. The presentation is for showing that you can be somebody who can compel people to your vision. And that's going to mean, eventually going to mean employees, it's going to mean customers, it's going to mean partners, and it's going to mean other investors. And so your presentation is your opportunity to show your potential investor that you can compel people with your vision. The best definition of entrepreneur that I've ever heard is someone who commands resources they don't control. And so your presentation is an opportunity for you to show a potential investor that you can command resources that you don't control. And so you should try your best to be compelling in that presentation, but your demo is what's going to sell your company. So the inevitable market slide. I think anybody that knows me knows that I don't have a good relationship with the market slide. I think in this space right now, it's a bunch of nonsense for the most part. Okay, if you're giving your opinion about how big the VR market in 2016 is going to be or 2017, you're essentially wasting your time. No one is right. We're all wrong. Nobody knows the answer to this question. Oculus doesn't know, NVIDIA doesn't know, Samsung doesn't know, no one knows how big the market's going to be. And so debating that and spending a lot of time on exactly that number, is it 1 million or 5 million or 10 million, is not relevant time in your pitch and your presentation. Okay, What is useful, however, is knowing that the investor that you walk in the room to pitch is already going to have their market thesis before you walk in the room. This battle is won or lost before you come in. And if that investor doesn't think that virtual reality is going to be a thing next year, if they don't think it's a good time to invest in virtual reality, you're not going to convince them otherwise. There's been 15 entrepreneurs beforehand that tried to, so why try and fight a battle that you, by definition, can't win? Why spend your time doing that? You should instead just walk in the room and hope that they are already a believer in virtual reality, and that's the person who might invest in your company. Someone that is a bear in virtual reality and thinks, we got to wait 18 months, you're not going to change their mind, and so why bother trying? What you should spend time on doing, however, in talking about the market, is figuring out what's going to happen if the market goes slowly. And by this I mean, how are you going to stay alive? If there's 1 million units out in the market a year from now, if there's a very small penetration in the market, if it's by definition possible for you to get substantial revenue because there's only 1 million people, how is your company going to stay alive through that? And that is an answer you should have, and that's how you should talk about the market. You should also potentially talk about, okay, what happens if the market surprises to the upside? What happens if all of a sudden there's 20 million headsets in the market a year from now? That's a story you can talk about and tell. But you should make sure to spend time for yourself understanding, okay, well, if I can't generate revenue in 2016, what does that mean for my company? How do I stick around until the units really start to come? Of course, we all hope that they're big numbers next year, but again, we don't know. And so we need to plan as if there's not going to be big adoption next year. Okay, so traction. This is an important slide in all demo day pitches. We don't have traction. Nobody has traction yet in this market. Don't pretend that you have traction. Don't try and claim it. A decent mobile app has more downloads in 2 or 3 days than all of the downloads in the history of Oculus Share. A decent mobile app has more downloads in a couple of weeks than all of the downloads of virtual reality applications in the history of the universe. So in that context, how can we possibly show traction? We can't use the traditional metrics that people say. So saying, okay, I have X number of thousand of users is sort of noise. Okay, what you should spend your time on instead is the way we think about the state of the industry right now, what our company can do to show traction, as it were, is we're essentially hypothesis testing. Okay. What are the things we can do out in the market? What are the ways that we can run experiments where we can say, okay, is this getting pickup with users? Do users seem to like this? And so when there are, instead of 100,000 people who have HMDs, there are 10 million people that have HMDs, we can extrapolate that we think we will have some engagement based on that. But it's a test. It's not traction in the sense of mobile traction. It's not traction in the sense of launching a game app. It can't be. And so don't try to paint the progress that you've made with the same brush that you do in mobile. It's just not going to work here. What you can say, a story you can tell well, however, because a lot of you have been in the industry for a while, is what have you done over the last 2 years to show that you can execute in the VR industry, to show that you can get stuff done, you can ship products, you can ship games, you can ship apps. Because showing that and showing you can do that on a low budget is incredibly important for that investor. You're not going to have infinite capital or infinite time, and so showing them that you can ship things quickly is really important, and that by some definitions, is your traction, really. So this is sometimes a slide you see in these pitches, but I thought I'd cover this because it's important here. So when you get to the point when there is a deal on the table, there are a few ways to get these deals done in the seed round. There are a few types of structure of seed round from a financing perspective that are used in the market right now. Think of this as the currency of the land. This is how we transact in seed rounds. And if you're trying to innovate on that, you're probably wasting your time. It's sort of like the metaphor that I was thinking about this on. It's sort of like starting a business in Mountain View, and when your customers come in telling them, you know, we only accept euros because we're trying to hedge against currency deflation. There's a currency of the land here in seed rounds, and that's the one you should use. If you find yourself using something outside of that, stop doing it and try and do something else. The other thing that comes up all the time is this conversation with entrepreneurs in this space about, oh wow, I've got people that are going to commit $800,000, and then somebody stepped up and they wanted to give me an extra $200K, and I'm not really sure if I should take it because it's extra dilution. Investors, close your ears, take the money. Okay, you are going to use the capital. If you can put the capital to use well, you should take the money. And there have been more companies that have failed because they ran out of cash than because their entrepreneurs, their founders, got disenchanted because they didn't own enough of the company anymore. So take the money if it's available, and you can put it to use well. And get done with the deal as quickly as possible. This is not value add for your company. This is not how you build product. This is not how you build value. When you get to the deal stage, just get it done and move on. So quick summary, because we're Demo day pitch is supposed to have a summary. So, figure out what market you're actually in. Don't talk about the VR market at large. Talk about your particular market. Really focus on your demo. That's an incredibly important part of everything that you're doing. Figure out when talking about the market and market growth, the key question is how are you going to stay alive when the market goes slowly. Don't fool yourself into thinking that this is mobile or some other market where you can show traction like you can in traditional other places. Don't innovate on seed round financial structure. There are, by the way, anybody who's raised seed rounds before, any investor who's invested in seed rounds before can tell you what those 2 or 3 ways are you can get the deal done. Follow that advice and move on. And the last thing which we didn't cover, this is something that I hear from founders and CEOs all the time, is, man, I hate fundraising. It's such a bear. Sorry, this is what you do now. This is probably one of the biggest parts of your job, is to get the resources to make sure your company moves quickly. And so you either need to get used to it or find somebody else to do it for you. But this is what you're going to do for the next 10 years of your life. There's that gigantic grain of salt that you should take everything that I said with. This is, of course, my experience based on what I've seen in the market over the last 10 years. But I'm very confident that you can meet somebody in this room who will tell you exactly the opposite of everything that I've said. But hopefully this is useful in some regards. Really excited to see the presentations later today. Good luck.